and into the eastern Philippines as authorities struggle to evacuate hundreds of thousands of people, but many of the emergency shelters are overcrowded with no means of social distancing and without proper safety gear against the coronavirus. Typhoon Vonfong is expected to sweep across densely populated areas before exiting in the north on Sunday.
Typhoon Wangfong is packing powerful sustained winds of up to 150 kilometers per hour. So far, no deaths have been reported, but it's still putting millions of lives at risk because of the coronavirus pandemic. Areas hit by the typhoon are under lockdown, and people are trying to stay home to avoid infection. The authorities have evacuated around 200,000 people who now face contracting the virus at overcrowded emergency shelters. Due to social distancing measures, the shelters can only accept half their capacity and people have to wear face masks. But not everyone has one, and many are trying their best to keep safe.
Now we have a lack of supplies for face masks. That's why we have started to make our own ones to avoid the spread of the virus.
Typhoons are common occurrences in the Philippines, but this time the coronavirus outbreak has made the threat even worse. The National Weather Agency warns of potential flooding and landslides in the coming days.
And joining us now from Manila is DW's Ana Santos. Ana, as we heard there, the typhoon cyclone has already ravaged several islands in the Philippines. What is the situation now?
Government officials told me today that managing a typhoon in the middle of a pandemic is a nightmare. So thousands have been evacuated into evacuation centers, and this took a longer time than usual as they had to transport people and vehicles that were only operating at half capacity, and then taking temperature checks, and then trying to distribute as many face masks as they could among the evacuees. Now, additionally to that, we started seeing pictures from the affected areas. We saw devastation. Thousands of people living in the coastal communities have now seen their houses just completely flattened. So after the typhoon, this now brings us to another problem. These people, these evacuees, might not have a home to return to. And how will they stay safe from the coronavirus after that?
And these disaster response teams, I mean, they have this challenge now of still operating despite the coronavirus pandemic slowing their work down. How are they managing?
This emergency, this typhoon is really straining government resources and manpower that have already been really hard-strapped since the lockdown that we've been under for the last 2 months. So the bigger challenge now is managing hygiene and sanitation in these very cramped evacuation centers. They're notorious for not being able to have sanitation and hygiene in the first place. Now, also, the next couple of days, we'll be monitoring the typhoon hitting the capital of Manila. We've seen over half of the total COVID positive cases in Manila, and this is mostly because of how densely populated Manila is. This density, this overcrowding of Manila is what we see mirrored in the evacuation centers. So government authorities are really now facing 2 challenges: how to protect people from the typhoon and how to prevent these evacuation centers from turning into hotbeds for coronavirus infection.
Okay, DW's Ana Santos joining us from Manila, where this typhoon is forecast to hit shortly. Thank you so much.
U.S. coronavirus deaths continue to climb, but President Trump is still busy blaming everyone else. One U.S. professor says Trump's tactics will implode. Why? And other U.S. politicians are very much for accepting our interview. Recently, you wrote an article called Trump's Anti-China Theory Implodes. I want to ask you, what prompted you to write such an article, and what's the message you want to send?
I've been very concerned with the Trump administration's repeated attacks on China rather than focusing on solving our problems within the United States. Our epidemic continues at a very dangerous level. The president has done a terrible job, I'm afraid. So we still have around 2,000 deaths every day, and the virus continues to spread in many parts of the United States. But instead of doing his job properly, he's spending more of his time attacking China for political reasons, to try to shift the blame, or because he thinks that somehow this appeals to his political base. But it's quite dangerous, obviously, and I believe that he and the Secretary of State, Pompeo, have made charges repeatedly without evidence, and if they actually believe what they say, they should be showing the evidence. I don't believe what they're saying, and yet our Secretary of State has said he's got huge evidence, and when the Chinese government said, well, you're bluffing, show us the evidence, he didn't show any evidence. So this is a big concern to me, because unfortunately we have a history in the United States of making false arguments, and I think that that can be very dangerous. If there's any truth to it, let's find out, but if it's just political arguments, it's very, very dangerous to make these statements.
Do you think they're genuinely suspecting about the origin of this virus, or are they trying to do something else? For instance, there has been a lot of criticism of how they have handled the situation. Indeed, the death toll has been extraordinarily high, the highest in the world, and continues to be so. So what do you think is driving this administration to go after all of these theories? And this is not the first theory we're hearing, right? We have been hearing a whole host of things, from calling this virus a China virus, a Chinese virus, now this origin thing. What do you think have been driving them to do that?
I think there are